Or good morning. Am I clear and audible? Mr. Albert, Mr. Ben, please, I want to be signaled so that I can know if I am very audible. Good morning. Good morning. Ben. Hello, good morning, Ben. Can you hear me? Please wave if you can hear and see me, please.
Mr. Pasha, can you hear me?
Ben, I can hear you. I've been
All right.
waiting.
Can you see us?
Yeah, I can see you. Can you
All
see
right.
me? Can you hear me?
We can.
All
You're
right.
welcome on board. This is Mr. Pasha, everyone. He will introduce himself also, one of the Microsoft. To have you, Mr. Pasha.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ben. Am I free to actually go on?
Yeah, right on.
All right. So, good morning, everyone. How are we all doing? Please indicate if you can hear me and you can see me. If you can't see me, it's fine. But if you can hear me, please just wave so that I can ensure we're on the right track and we can move on. Thank you very much for the wave. Ben, please clarify that you can see my slides as well.
Yes, I can.
All right, so I'll be moving on from here. Now, we're going to be talking about Microsoft 365, which is what I believe you've been talking about, you've discussed in the past time to this point. My responsibility this morning is to tell you what you don't know about Microsoft 365 and also how you're going to be using these tools going forward. Now, these are the agendas we have for today. First and foremost, so that we can actually put a so you can see my face as well, but let me do well to introduce myself. My name is Panshak Jeremiah Koproda. I work at Track IT, and I'm here this morning to walk you through and teach you what you don't know, or one of the advantages of adopting Microsoft 365 for teachers. So our agendas for today will have an introduction. We're going to look at the um, the about section. We're going to have the evolution and key components of Microsoft 365. We're going to look at advantages of Microsoft 365, especially what you don't know, why you should get the subscription. We're going to have a conclusion, a Q&A, and a demo I have prepared for this class. Now, welcome to Microsoft 365. Now, today we'll be exploring the transformative power of Microsoft 365 and why it is not just a suite of application, but a catalyst for organizational success, right? That's what this session will be about. It will be just letting you know how this thing will be integrated with your own profession and the reasons why these things and these tools have been built in the first place. Moving on. Now, we're going to look at the dynamic, which is one of the things that's part of the agenda of Microsoft 365. Now, it's not just a software package as we know it to be. It's a dynamic ecosystem that integrates productivity, tools, cloud services, and security features. Now, what does it mean by an ecosystem? I know that most of us here are teachers, and we understand that when we talk about an ecosystem, it's the codependence of one thing or one tool with or upon the other, right? So the whole idea of this is that there are codependencies of the productivity applications, one relying on another to make it function much more efficiently. For instance, we as human beings rely on food that comes from crops. Um, is there any for me to pause the class?
Hello, Mr. Contract.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, hold on.
All right. So we as human beings depend on crops, for instance, to actually get our food to eat.
Mr.
Yes, we
Contract.
can depend on other things like purely meat, but for our existence as human beings to be optimized, we have to be regulated by the things we depend on, right, within our own ecosystem. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Pancha, please, can you slow down a bit? Like, you quite very fast for them to follow.
I'm very, very sorry for that. Let me take my time to go through this. So let me go back to the
And
agenda.
please just take it slowly. Thank you very much. And then you could also zoom your screen if possible.
I could,
Zoom your screen. Zoom in.
yeah, I'm sharing directly
Okay. All right.
from the
Because
team.
please.
So
All right. All right. Will you? Is it possible for us to have this material when you're done?
exactly to be here.
Right, thank
So
you. Thank you very
I would
much.
like for them to focus on the sound of my voice. I will be doing most of the talking. These slides are just basically highlights of what I want to talk about. So not everything I'll talk about here is actually on the slides. So I don't know if that's
Write down also.
clear that way so that we can have questions as well. So I'm going over the agenda again. We're going to be having an introduction. We're going to talk about Microsoft 365 itself. We're going to go through the evolution and key components that comprise of Microsoft 365, how it came here from what we knew Microsoft 365 to be to what it is today. We're going to take a looking at advantages of using Microsoft 365, and this aspect of the class will mainly focus on what we don't know goes behind on without when it comes to the Microsoft 365. Then we're going to talk about why you should get this subscription. We're going to have a conclusion, Q&A, and then a demo. Yeah, someone's phone is ringing again. So I'll go over here. Good morning. Today we'll explore the transformative power of Microsoft 365 and why it's not just a suite of application, but a catalyst for organizational success. Now, we know them and we know these tools to be a set of softwares we use to edit documents, to create slides, and a lot of things, and so on. Now, it goes beyond that, and that's why that's the focus of this class. We're looking at how transformative these tools can be, both to the organization, both to the teachers, and then the students, right? Now, what's the dynamic that has to do with Microsoft 365? Microsoft 365 is not just a software package, it's a dynamic ecosystem. And this is where we stopped, right? So when I was speaking about the dynamic ecosystem, we as teachers understand that there's an ecosystem for those people that maybe do home economics or biology, within which every living organism co-depends on. That's called symbiotic living, right? Where plants, where animals depend on plants, and then the circle goes on like that to form a series of codependencies. Now, this ecosystem of Microsoft tools has formed an ecosystem, right? One Microsoft tool is depending on another, and I want to teach us how those dependencies work. That's one of the reasons why we are here. Now, there are various stratas of this codependency that has to do with the cloud services, the productivity tools themselves, and the security features. These are the main features that has to do with Microsoft 365. Moving on. Please, if we are together, just wave and say aye, please. I know the teachers are not used to being taught, but we're going to have to please bear with me. And please, you can feel free to interject at any point you feel I'm not doing justice to what I'm saying, or you feel you're a bit confused. Am I free to move on?
Yes, move.
Thank you very much. So the question is, how did we get to Microsoft 365? Right? Most times we are hearing Office 365. That is the normal Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and the rest that we've been using. Right. Now, this has evolved to meet the changes that has to do with organizational growth and efficiency. Now, from Office 365, Office 365 did not phase out. It was basically transformed and incorporated into Microsoft 365 to meet modern needs that our organizations, that our teachers, and our students will need going forward, right? There was a need for advanced sense of collaborations and interdependency between the tools, and that's how we came to Microsoft 365. Now, it has become, of course, the cornerstone of most modern workplaces as the organization is. Now, what are the key components that Microsoft 365 have? Now, the key components has to do with Microsoft 365 itself, Office 365, which has to do with productivity and cloud. Then we have security. So these are the key components that it has.
The phone is silent. I put it on silent. All right, we're having technical issues for them back now. And I've just been not for us to write down some. So you for me like the past. I was really want So I was saying that we were having technical issues, but he's back now. I just feel it seems slow enough for us to write down since we are not actually seeing other slides that is talking wrong. So you're just showing us it. But tomorrow will be more of the demo or something. The demo. Yes, yes. So I'm just going to what is explain anything, if you explain it the way I can write. Not just saying, we go to send to next line. Yeah. So Barsha, can you hear me?
Yeah, Ben, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Can I continue?
Yes, please. Can continue with that.
Thank you very much. I'm zooming in the slides now. Can you see that?
You can see the slide.
All right. I want to ensure that I can just tell me give me a quick feedback on what you want me to do so that I can be clear. Let me not just be speaking to myself.
Okay. I'm going. Right on. You don't need to be slower. Not just very slow, but in a way that will write down something.
All right.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Now, yeah, I'll be looking and this with this aspect of the class will be about unpacking the components of Microsoft 365 and what it comprises of. So if we're taking notes down, we can write key components of Microsoft 365. Now, when I began at the point of our agenda, I said this is the part where we'll talk about the things that we don't know, right? So when we talk about Microsoft 365, we understand that there are some tools that are online and some of them we have them on our desktop. But the thing is, what are those capabilities that are enhanced within these tools that we do not know of? So I'm trying to get us to be privy to this information and then look at how we can leverage on all of this to help us even as we teach as teachers. Can I move on? Thank you very much. So the very first thing, funny enough, that is within the Microsoft 365 is the Office 365 itself. Now, we all know what Office 365 is, the productivity tools. That's why when I started, I asked, when I say the word Microsoft, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? You get to think of things like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and those are the kind of things we are using. Now, even before I even go further into what the productivity tools are and everything that comprises of it, currently we are even using a Microsoft 365 tool. Now, let me tell you something you don't know. For Microsoft, for Office, Google Meet that we know that we have, if you're creating a meeting, it only allows you to have a meeting for about 30 minutes to 1 hour tops. Then you will have to end the meeting and start again. So if you're having a maybe virtual call and you're supposed to teach a class of about 45 minutes, once it gets to 30 minutes, it actually logs you out and ends the meeting. Then you will have to go and create another meeting and send a link again. Now, I have had this challenge before where I was having a virtual meeting, right? And then I was using Google Meet. So, and people were joining from different parts, like from other parts of the people that you didn't even have access. What you just did was that you create a registration form. And when they clicked on it, it just brought them to the call, right? And usually we know that just as we experience now, we have that little time in between starting the call and properly beginning. So that might take up to 20 minutes, depending on technical difficulties you have, right? So by the time we got to 45 minutes, it was already telling us that the meeting will end. Now, one of the things I like about Teams is that I can actually create a call for almost as long as possible because I have premium. Now, one thing I want you to understand about Microsoft 365 is this. Microsoft 365 subscription. Usually I would like to make add-ons so that we understand that there are differences. There's Microsoft 365 itself, which is the general suite that Microsoft is giving you, which is what I'm going to be walking you through. Now, I'm walking you through the aspects and components that has to do with Microsoft 365, right? Now, all this also has to do with subscription. So what they did is this, right? You could subscribe for Teams Premium alone. You could subscribe for Office 365 Premium alone, right? And you'll be paying different chunks of money to get all of this. Now, one of the things you can see that is directly above the Office 365 is called the Power Platform, right? It is also part of the suite of applications that Microsoft 365 gives to you, right? You could do all of those things in isolation. But the thing is, for you to save costs and get the best of all of them, they reduce the price you need to get for Microsoft 365 so that you can get all of the things that has to do with Microsoft productivity tools, right? The only thing they've left out is their cloud computing platform. That's the only thing they left out. They are giving you bits and they are giving you the best that has to do with this. Now, most of us are tired of using what's it called? Cracked versions, where today to tell you to put in a security key and so on. And then you want to even edit a simple Word document, but you can't. Now, sometimes you're even teaching the children how to use Word, and you see that both the teacher and the student have different versions of Microsoft 365. Now, that's a challenge, right? Or sometimes there's this thing that's happened to me before. I used a version that is newer to print, and I created a document. When I went to print, the the version they were using in the cafe could not have could not was not couldn't see my own document as accessible, right? So that's how I didn't print that document entirely. I don't know if you understand. So those are the challenges you have. So maybe you created a document in your own personal computer that has to do with creating, maybe you've written questions of exam for your students. And then you now pick the document, you put it up on your flash, which is something that's even something getting outdated. So one of the things we want to go beyond is sending documents through flashes or through phones or through WhatsApp, right? Then you are now taking it to school to print, and then you realize that as it is, the version you sent is not compatible with the one you have currently. So those are the challenges you have with Office 365. So if the institution gets an institutional plan for Office 365, it can now bring in each and every member of its staff on board, right? Then give you guys what they call tenants. Then you guys can all have the subscription individually. And the interesting part is that if I am a teacher at the school, if I want to send an email to you, I don't even need to ask you for your email. After creating the email, and I want to forward you a document to maybe the person that will print, I'll just go click on the place that I need to enter the email address, just start typing your name and to bring up the suggestion because we are all on one subscription, right? If we want to add our students as well, so that when they go for holidays and they are on break and we want them to have maybe assignments or midterm break assignments, we can do that. If you want to even automate, which is where we're going to with the Power Platform, Power Platform brings you automation, analysis, and enhanced digital forms. So you want to have a situation where you will send birthday messages to your students while they're at home, or you automatically send their report cards to their parents in via email. We can look at that. We can settle down and look at the software development aspect of Microsoft 365 and come up with a solution that has to do with sending that automatically, right? If the principal, for instance, I'm going to get into this when we go to how the school as an institution can come into this, right? So first, we've talked about Office 365 as a productivity tool. Then we have Power Platform, right? It is also part and incorporated. Now, normally you pay for Office 365 differently, and then you pay for Power Platform differently. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a breather so that we can process some of the things I've said. But the thing about what I'm doing right now is that I'm not trying to get us to have things that we'll memorize or things that we'll remember. I just want to, let me use the word, preach the whole thing to us so that we get to be on the same page. Then when we begin to do the demo, because I think we're beyond writing and all that now, because I want us to just know how to do this thing hands-on, how to use this thing hands-on. Now, and then we have the Power Platform. The Power Platform is just amazing, right? You can literally create an application, a mobile application in 15 minutes using the Microsoft Power Platform. You can automate a lot of tasks, right? So let's say, the way it is done in the university is that when you've created, for graduating students, when you've created a list of, what's it called, of students and their results, you send it to the Senate, then it's called the Senate format, right? Then the dean of the faculty sits with the Senate and then goes through it. Now, when he's done, he will now sometimes have to call you and then make some changes, right? But we are looking at a situation where the whole institution is on a particular subscription so that we don't need to be doing physical documents back and forth, right? There's something called approvals where he can approve
from his own end documents that you've sent directly, right? Now, another solution that we might build with the Power Platform is that every teacher that has a class or has a deadline can add it to a list, right? And then that list is tagged with a date. Anytime the teacher has a class, the teacher gets a notification on his phone. I don't know, is that interesting? Please, I need response, please. I've just been going off alone. Are we together? Yeah, so you can create a solution where the teacher will get a notification of when his class is starting. So maybe the class is maybe in the next 45 minutes. The teacher will just get a small alert on his phone. You are teaching introductory technology by 12, JSS 2C. I don't know if you understand. So you can actually even create those solutions. And the good part is that by the time we are done training, even the staff itself on Power Platform, they'll be able to create their solutions almost on their own. They will just require little assistance from us to create these solutions. And depending on the complexity of the solutions, we might now then look at doing a full-blown software project built on the Microsoft 365 on the school, so that we are not the ones that will carry the app and go away with it. And then, no, the app will be kept within the school system, managed by the staff, and then all those things. Then we're looking at security compliance and the cloud. So this is also part of it. And this is what I mentioned that has to do with adding tenants. So you can bring on people and all those kind of things. So that then we have Office 365 app suite. Now, when we were talking about this with a friend recently, we were talking about Microsoft 365. It started becoming complicated because unless you know, you won't know that there are different aspects of this. So even if you have, there's Microsoft 365, which is online, of course, but then there are branches of it that has to do with you having a desktop version that is called a progressive web application. So it is on your desktop, but it still requires internet to run. Then you have Office 365, which is on your desktop, but you can synchronize it with whatever you're doing on the cloud, right? So one of the things you can do is that while you're creating documents, you can send it automatically to the system that we've created for the school, right? So from your home, you just send it online. Then the person that is responsible for printing it will just come online and then see a document that has been created, JSS 2C examination questions. What he will simply do is open it up on his own system. You see how collaboration is made easy with this, right? When he opens it up on his own system, then he gets to print it, and then the children get to have their own exams. I'm even looking forward to a time where we could say, okay, the children will be taking their exams using Microsoft Forms, right? So that automatically you can just have that if the exams are OBJ. And if the students are computer literate enough, they could type for anything they will write. And then, there are those aspects of these things. They are, like, to be very honest, people underutilize Microsoft 365. That's the honest truth. It is super, super underutilized. People barely use up to 20, what am I saying? Up to 15% of the capabilities that we lie within this, right? There's something that is not part of these slides I forgot to add. It's called Microsoft Graph, right? Let me just leave that. That's for an advanced class. Then there's also M365 apps for mobile, right? So there's this thing I did, I think last week. I had a presentation I was to give, right, physically. And I was thinking, okay, what do I do now? And then I realized that I couldn't, for some reason, I just decided, why not try creating the slides on my phone, right? And I went on to create the slides on my phone. I went and I did the presentation to a crowd of about, I think, 80, 90 people or so. And it was live. I created everything on my phone. And the funny thing, one thing I liked about it is that after creating on my phone, if I wanted to, I would have presented it from my phone. So I wouldn't need even a pointer to be pointing and then changing next slide. I'll be telling maybe the person at technical next slide, and the person will go next slide, next slide. No. With my mobile phone, I can create my own, I can design my own, what's it called, slides. Then if I decide, then I'll say, okay, this is the slides I have now. Then I can go to my computer, because the subscription is both on my phone and my computer. Then I'll open up my computer. Then I'm already signed in on my laptop. Then I'll use my laptop directly to begin my presentation. Do you understand that? Is it making sense? Yeah, thank you. I think I can just hear one voice or only one person saying yes. So. Yeah, yeah. So it is, we can have it for your mobile. So the important part is that it has a lot to do with collaboration between teachers, right? Let's say Miss or Mrs. Regina wants to send an email to her friend or something. It can just be simple as that, right? Just collaboration and then creating things online and as simple as that. And the part I like the most is the fact that you can use your mobile phone. So there's Office 365 for mobile, right? And you can even have Teams on mobile and everything, and it makes things just seamless. Yes. So moving on. Now, I want us to look at advantages of Office 365. I'm going to be skipping. This is just how to manage the screen. Then these are the additional features that we do not know of. So we have Microsoft Graph. So Microsoft Graph, as I said, it's a bit advanced. It has to do with you building custom connections, right, between your application. So if there's anything Microsoft have not done yet that you want to create, then you can create yourself. This is where I come in, right? Microsoft Graph, where I can look at building custom solutions for the school itself so that they can know that this is it and these are the things they want to do. And for the additional features, we also have connectors. So sometimes you wonder now, for some of us that are using Google, right? Like we're using some of the Google things. My of course, your email is Google. So you'll be like, okay, how do I now bring things from my Google? There's a thing called connectors that allows you to connect to the basic Google tools or other applications that you use that are not on Microsoft. Then we have automations, which I mentioned, which we are going to do. I'm hoping we'll do practically when we meet again. That I want to show you how to automatically make the computer itself or the robotic aspect of Microsoft 365 to do certain tasks on its own, unsupervised. Then we have, of course, security and administration. Now, security and administration has to do with you having confidential files that you don't want to share with just anybody, right? So you have confidential files, and then after you've gotten the subscription, you want to bring people on board as tenants. So the way yes, it sounds like you'll be a landlord. So yes, that's it. It will be like the school administration is the landlord. Then they are bringing on the staff as tenants and also their students. So the school itself is getting the subscription, then it is sharing it to as many people as it wants, right? So even the parents of the children can also have it so that it will be easy and things like that. Now, where does this thing come in when it comes to teaching? Now, modern learning tools and community online is an advantage too. So there are learning tools if you want to learn, of which I'm also here to teach you or walk you through how to use these things, right? I'm just giving an overview before we go to how to use it. Then these tools that we're talking about today are built for what is called the 21st century learning design practices, as you can see clearly written here, right? So something was discovered that for children to be trained from a very tender age on how to be prepared for the workforce that is tomorrow, right? So what that means is that children that will be coming up in the future, our children today, the way they work will be different from the way we work, right? And what happens is that the school system that we have now is not really compatible with the learning that is required for these children to thrive, right? So there's this curriculum or this learning design practice that is called 21st century learning design, where the teacher sits down and then with her or within her colleagues, they get to go over what is it called? They get to go over how they want to introduce learning practices that will help the student to have a mindset or the skills that's required for the future. And we all know as it's just a common thing now that the world is going digital, right? People just say it abstractly. When you say the world is going digital, what do you mean? Work has been digitized. Healthcare has been digitized, right? Booking of cars has been digitized. Purchases have been digitized. So when we come to learning, it has also been digitized. And then we need to teach the children, even from an early age, how do you prepare yourself for this digital transformation that we're seeing today. That's where the 21 CLD comes in. One of the 5 components of the 21 CLD is the ICT training. That has to do with the students becoming digital literate. And becoming digital literate is the fact that Office 365 is not going anywhere. By the time they go to secondary school, there are secondary schools already that are teaching their students on Teams during the coronavirus and all those kind of things, where children had to come online, right? When they even within the primary school, when they're a bit much more knowledge, maybe primary 5, then those kind of things can be introduced to them, right? They can begin to just walk around and play around. Now, the funny thing is that most of these children even know how to use these computers better than us, right? And then we're just limiting what they know by doing things the way we want it sometimes, but we want to prepare them for where they are going to, not where we are now. That's how it comes in. Then, as I also mentioned, it is cheaper than in the individual subscriptions, right? Then we're looking at human resources, right? Human resources. So I said something here. Microsoft 365 helps manage human and digital resources. Managing human and digital resources has been made easier with Microsoft 365, right? So when we talk about digital resources, we're talking about your presentations. We are talking about your documents, your Excel files, your Word documents, and so on and so forth. Then we are looking at also ways where students can incorporate, as I mentioned, the 21 LCD and CLD, sorry, right? So that's where the students come in. Now I'm looking, this particular slide has to do with how the school comes into the picture of the entire Microsoft 365. Teachers will use it to manage learning resources and teaching resources, and manage students as well in terms of managing classes and also managing grades and everything. Then students will incorporate it by learning how to collaborate with their teachers on these things, so that going forward and going into the future, they will know how to use these things. Then management, this is where I like it more, can manage digital records. So a school can have a Microsoft 365 subscription that goes for years going into the future, right? And when they get to archive their digital records of students, testimonials, even exams that students wrote, and then you can even scan the answer booklet and keep it online, so that someone maybe in the future begins to argue and you have your records. That's one of the things that I like about this. Management can also use this to even track staff appearance in school. So for some of us, when you come in the morning, you have to sign an attendance. Now the question is, can we look for a way that digitally, where, let's say, digitally, we could come up with a system for staff to sign in, maybe even from their homes? Do you understand? Or maybe as soon as they get on when they come into the premises, they can just come up and just put up what they are doing for the day. Do you understand? It's a way for management to track the activities, which is good. Now, I made a little diagram here, if you can see. That has to do with the teacher, the student, and the management. And then there's an intersection where Microsoft 365 can come in, right? So if you look at it closely, you can see where we have the teacher, the student, and management all coexisting in the ecosystem, the digital ecosystem that we were talking about from the beginning, right? So it's a way that I want us to look at it and to look at Microsoft 365. Now, the question is, why should the institution get Microsoft 365? First, we have increased productivity, because it makes the teachers much more productive, And one thing I want to mention quickly is this. AI, or artificial intelligence, as we hear it, has not been incorporated into Microsoft 365. So for things that the teacher is not able to do himself or herself, artificial intelligence can enhance productivity by helping you do it yourself. So you'll be like, okay, send a mail that has to do with this. You're just typing, just giving it commands, then it generates it for you. If you're not comfortable with it, we give it another command. So that's how it helps with productivity. So imagine you sitting down to write 20, questions that has to do with this. AI can actually even help you set exam questions, right? I mean, we're going to get to that part that has to be prompt engineering. Prompt engineering has to do with you leveraging on artificial intelligence to see how you can optimize the way you work, right? Where you begin to give prompts. Okay, I want to give an exam on this subject, and I want intelligence to help me. How do I get to do about that? So that you don't get to just go over and over again. Then by the time you have done that, then the question you've created is archived within the system so that going forward, when you don't have to do it again, so it saves time, it saves cost, and it saves a lot of things. Enhanced collaboration, where staff and colleagues can collaborate online. So the same way you're chatting on WhatsApp, you can just come up on Microsoft Teams and chat. There are teams in quotes now on Microsoft Teams that you can get to use, right? So you can have yourself create teams on Microsoft that has to do with people that are teaching the nursery and then people that are teaching the primary section of the class, right? So you can have a teams that will host both of that, right? So it's those kind of things that we're looking at. Then we are looking at improved security so that people can, of course, it will be almost ridiculous to start talking about security at this stage, but in any case, it's part of it. So we will leave that for another time. Then cost savings and innovation opportunities. Now, I mentioned something that's with the Power Platform. We're talking about innovation. Imagine you now create a system that works for the school, right? It's customized within your Microsoft 365 system or suite. But let's say that the school now decides that they want to open a secondary aspect of it, or you are transferred to an aspect that has to do with the secondary aspect of the class, right? You are likely to start thinking of, okay, how do I bring the system that I've created or I've innovated in my school already, right? So you'll be like, okay, what do I do? You can even share a solution. That's the sweet part. So you can, from your school, before you leave, you could just share your solution, take it with you to the next school. When you arrive there, you deploy it there and you begin to use the innovations you've created at the school currently. Are we together? Am I too fast? All right. I can just only hear one voice responding, and I'm concerned, to be honest.
It's the voice of the people.
Yeah, and I know, and I know that teachers, especially those that teach in the primary school, have big voices because it's not easy. Your voice gets to be trained over time to be accustomed to raising, yes, raising your voice and talking to kids and all those kind of things. So please, when I ask, I want to at least get a very, very minimal response, right? You mustn't shout, but at least, are we together? Thank you very much. Yeah, I can even see waving. So
Slow down a little bit.
all right, Ben, will you put together the feedback and give it to me as one statement so that I can get to know what to do?
All right. I know that you talk like me, and we are both fast. But
all right, I'll be sending the slides. Don't worry.
all right, no problem. So just write
Yes,
down,
the
right?
slides. Yeah, the slides. So any other this one, any other what's it called? Feedback.
Continue, go ahead.
Thank you very much. All right. Then now, as this is the concluding part. So Microsoft 365 is not just the normal Office 365 you know. It has like advanced capabilities. Let me even be honest with you. People actually sometimes have career changes when they discover the abilities of Microsoft 365. So you get to know what you can do. For instance, the parts that I talked about that has to do with innovation. And maybe some people in other schools might call you up and say, okay, how did you do this? And then you can come up and say, okay, this is how I did it. And they might get to pay you for that. Do you understand? So I want us to move from the thinking that has to do with simply Microsoft 365 as Office 365 alone, right? Let's get to a part that has to do with us thinking of, okay, how do we incorporate these build solutions, make our lives easier, right? If there's anything you're doing that is repeated, oh God, English, that is repetitive in whatever work you're doing and it is done online, then trust me, there's a way to automate it and reduce the amount of time and the task required that for you to actually do this. Maybe this is the pace I've started and ended before. We're actually at the end, and we are now at the Q&A session. Anything you feel at all you don't understand or any part that is confusing, please do well to let me know so that we can actually address the questions. Over to you, Ben. Let me know the questions we have.
Right. We have any questions for him? Before I ask first question, do you have any questions for the question?
No, I have a question. I have a question.
Correct, the mic is there, right? So yeah, I have a question.
I am scared though.
Come get that.
On that, you know, if
Is it pie chart or pie chart?
they have butchered my name, oh, Ben, help me.
Sorry.
Right, it's pan shark.
Pie chart.
Yeah, pan shark. Yeah.
Okay, it's from Jos.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yes. Brother, you said so many things about subscription. Is it that all
Yes, sir.
the cloud are having different subscriptions, or one subscription can go for all the whole cloud you mentioned? And I would like if you can give me the range of the subscription, that is a month, and then the duration of time it covers for every of the subscription, and then if the subscription, which of the subscription is suitable for a school that have nursery primary to have for all the staffs. Let me say a staff where they have up to 100 staffs, and let me say 400 students, and then parents as well. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much for that. I like those kind of questions, right? Now, if let me even tell you one very funny fun fact, right? I discovered when I was actually learning about all these things that some people's job, like that their job, like what they do 9 to 5, is to consult on things that have to do with subscriptions, right? So that they can have a subscription that is tailor-made for the institution, and then you don't overpay for what you're not using, right? Now, sorry to say, but that's not my specialty. That's the specialty of Mr. Albert, right? So I am an instructor. I teach how to use the tools, right? But when it comes to the subscription aspect and the things that has to do with the range, I'm not fully updated on that because with the fluctuation of dollars and everything, there are a lot of things that go on. And there are two things because the subscriptions they vary. There are individual subscription. There's even what is called a family plan, right? There's something called an MSME plan or something that for small organizations. And then you go to an institutional plan, and then you go to subscription that even multinational companies get, where they have tenants across different countries. So getting into that is getting to a different aspect entirely that has to do with the Microsoft 365 subscriptions. And that is actually where Mr. Albert comes in, or even Mr. Joseph here. Sorry, but I'm actually just a training instructor that has to do with Microsoft 365. So is it okay if the questions are forwarded to Mr. Albert?
Okay.
All right.
Next question. We have subscription.
Yeah.
Okay, another question.
Okay, if you have Mr. Joseph.
So it's for the same Albert.
You said Mr.
So-
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
That's subscription. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the lesson.
I mean, you have another question.
Let me ask.
Other question.
Yeah, I have a question.
No subscription, right?
It's somehow.
Okay, no, let me go here.
Okay. Talking about the subscription.
Not in my hand.
Oh, sorry. If I'm doing an individual subscription, can I use that subscription on my phone and my laptop? Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, the same subscription plan.
Because when you subscribe, you have your mail password. Use your mail and password to log in anywhere at any time. You have 5 laptops, 10 phones, and log in to your
So since you are here, what is subscription for individual? Yes, you
Like how much?
can.
I said individual.
Depending on the fluctuation of dollar price. When dollar price,
Initially, how much?
now, so most times we could get it for 8,000 naira.
For how long?
For about 6 months. You can get it for 3,000 naira for about 1 year. It just depends. Depends. It just depends on how much, how dollar rises and how dollar falls.
That is for individual or
Yes.
Individual. You subscribe?
Yes.
Well, can you subscribe on
So you can't subscribe. You can't subscribe on your own. I can't subscribe on my own.
Who is subscription?
Microsoft.
that's what I'm saying. Can you do it directly?
Yes.
With Microsoft.
Yes.
Instead of coming trade.
Of course.
The price is still the same, or you people are going to
The
change.
price is really good.
Yes, because I think for me now, that subscription I'm interested in that subscription because I discovered so many things I'm buying on that.
There are a lot of, they are not even talking to there are a lot of things. That's too much for me.
But since you
Once it's done with them, yeah, but tomorrow you also have things that just to do a paraphrase of about what
So about
I think the practical is the main thing, not all this.
you know, in computer, most times practical over theory because if you follow the theory, you just lost. So the whole English you are speaking, maybe just one thing that you don't do. Just giving all hints, gives a hint of what we tend to see. The thing is, I think from what I understand, it's like all about a container. And this container is a container that you can use to do anything you feel like doing. Anything you feel like on this earth, you can embed it to it. You can link it to it. Every aspect of your life. If you want something that will be giving you information that this thing is time for you to do this, it's time for you to do that, it's time, and then you link it with your phone to be updating you that okay, you see it as a text message or as an alert to your phone. That this is yes, yes, that is the right language. It will be like a diary, but this one now will be something that you can say document, put in the document, both audio, images, and other things you feel like you feel. Then that subscription enable you to access it at any time you feel like. Yes, if you did not subscribe, just like I did that now. Yeah, if you did not subscribe, you cannot get access to the internet. So this subscription, another question is that if you subscribe, you can even enter without the internet because if I'm not, you will still need internet.
You browse your WhatsApp without internet.
So,
now, the Word and Excel you are using is just on your desktop. Not even in your when you are using offline, it's just on your desktop.
Okay,
now, it's not 365, it's not that 365. You have, let me show you. He having technical condition. Let me just show you something. Let me this color I ended for